Yeah, yeah. Good luck. Good luck.
All right. Hi,
Okay.
everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of Dan and Drew in the Dark, special 2026 WWDC edition. I am Drew.
I'm Dan. It's definitely not morning, but it's Drew and Dan in the morning. Welcome back, everybody.
So we just watched the WWDC26 keynote and the platform State of the Union. Oh my gosh, there's a lot there. We're going to pick and choose a little bit here because we can't hit everything. There's just too much. Let's see. Where do you want to start? macOS Golden Gate. Sounds like they made a better corner radius. Did something with the bars at the top. Liquid Glass now has an effect level slider, so you can say how much you hate it or not.
So, yeah, oh, well, there you go. On that note, right there, did you feel like they're walking back liquid glass or that they're improving liquid glass or yes?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think they basically gave you a slider so you could pretty much turn it totally off. And they got rid of their very wide corner radius to a much more reasonable one.
Yeah.
And I think I saw on something they were going to go all the way to the edges now instead of having some weird little border. And
Right.
I think
Right.
all
All the way to
that
the
is
edge.
is good.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a fan of liquid glass. I like the design, but I'm not surprised that they're walking it back a little bit because I have heard people complain about it, and I think some of from an accessibility standpoint or a contrast standpoint, maybe it's been lacking there. So they're adding contrast is what I took away. That was my major takeaway from the changes in liquid glass.
Yeah, yeah. Added
Yeah.
contrast. I think they did something with that top bar, but maybe that's just iPad. Like where they were going to integrate. I don't know. I don't really
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Let's see. They talked about device support also. I heard them mention iOS 27 supports the same phones as iOS 26. Um, and I did find that interesting that they said iOS and iPhones, and they did not say
Mhm.
iPadOS and iPads.
Oh, well,
So I have not
good
checked,
point.
but I'll be curious to see if they drop some iPads or
Interesting.
an
Interesting.
iPad.
I didn't pick up
Um,
on that detail. I liked to the device standpoint with iOS and phones, the prioritization of sending data in low connectivity. You know, when you're trying to send a photo and then you're trying to send another text messages and
yes.
nothing is going through. That was really smart. And then the smarter switching from Wi-Fi to cellular. It seems like
Right. I
the
mean,
phone just wants
we'll
to
have to
grab
see how these
Wi-Fi.
things work in practice, but they sound good. That the one with messages was, if you haven't heard it, it was, if you go to send a message with, let's say, a large photo and it takes a long time, it doesn't stop all your other messages from going through.
Yeah.
Instead, something just flashed on my screen. Sorry.
Yeah.
But instead, you'll get a little progress bar on that item while your other messages will still get sent. So
Yeah, yeah, that
that's
was a
kind of
nice.
cool.
These are some nice little quality of life improvements that I think will be beneficial. Overall, my impression of the general keynote, they spent a lot of time talking about that their not age range necessarily, but the child protection
Right. The trust and
features.
safety. And it seemed like they had an awfully long wind up to get to the point on those. Like they talked on about that stuff for a long time. And it seemed at first, my first thought was like, aren't they just repeating the same things we've always seen in terms of just parental controls, that kind of thing? And
Right.
I did notice at least a couple things that they added. They've added an ask to browse. So right
Right.
now you can turn on or off Safari for your kid, but instead you'll be able to, the child will be able to say, oh, I want to go to whatever,
Website.
wonderpets.com or something.
Yeah.
And you'll get this thing saying they want to browse to Wonder Pets, and you can say yes or no. Same thing with messaging individual people in iMessage. And then I know they had a school time function before, but now they've got this concept it looked like from the screenshots of, before school, during school, after school, and then non-school days being all separate categories that you could adjust settings for individually.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of granularity, and I'd honestly be surprised. Just people in my circles, granted, maybe I'm a bit older, I'm 48 years old. People in my circles, I would guess that they are not going to spend the time to dig that deep in the granularity. But then again, my kids are older, so I'm a bit out of the target market for this. But just knowing how well people dive into those little fuzzy details, I don't know. I think it's going to be more work for a lot of people, but hopefully hopefully it's a welcome addition. From my perspective, running a social network, I get why they're doing this. Like there is a lot of laws coming around throughout the world in the United States, but then in various countries are implementing age verification laws. And so Apple is doing what they can to help developers to comply with these as easily as possible. I personally use the age range verification API, and that's pretty straightforward.
Right. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in apps just because of, like you said, all the laws. And I think a lot of people still haven't really seen that much.
Right. Yeah. So I get why they're doing it. It was a large chunk of the keynote.
But it seemed like, it seemed like it was an awfully big amount of time. Like, wow, they must be doing something really gigantic. And it didn't seem that gigantic. Maybe I've underestimated it, but we'll see. Photos is supposed to have photos shared albums are now supposed to have you can invite your Windows and Android friends to share your photo library. And it also talked about full resolution sharing. I guess there was some down resolution photo sharing thing happening. I'm not really sure, but because I don't use that. Maps app had some pretty flyover.
That was nice. It was a nice demo. Higher resolution. What was it? They said like,
I don't know. It looked pretty. I wrote down that it was pretty, and that was kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah. And then there was a lot of demo of the new and improved Siri, which I'll be honest, Drew, I didn't really see a big change with the Siri. Their demos were. I appreciated that the fact that their demos were realistic. They didn't speed up anything.
Oh goodness! I hope they didn't.
Right.
Because they didn't seem that fast. These interactions seemed pretty slow, the ones they showed us. And, hopefully, like you said, hopefully they're trying to be realistic and not overpromise. I hope that's not still overpromising and then these things take 12 seconds or something. But
I wasn't honestly that impressed with the quote unquote new Siri, but I haven't played with it yet. I only just now downloaded the beta to my iPad.
Right. Same here. It's updating.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. The interaction seems slow. They said that they're doing some deal with Google, with Gemini. Some kind of collaboration there is powering some of this, so probably at least get better in some way. They're going to have a dedicated Siri app, which I think everybody was sort of betting that wouldn't happen, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
They talked
How often
Go ahead.
How often do you use Siri on a day-to-day basis today?
Well, it usually gets activated when I don't want it to because I have a son that his nickname is Simmy. So I say Simmy and then Siri comes on and then I have to yell at it. Or I tell Siri to do something and it says, just waits. And then it says on it. And then it waits some more. And says,
so the reason
sorry, I had trouble. Try again. Or
the reason I ask is because same. I mean, I use it. I don't use it every day, right? I use it occasionally. What's the weather? Plays certain song on my.
I used to use it more 5 or 6 years ago than I do today because I feel like I don't know what the numbers are, but I get a lot of unintended activations and I get a lot of, I didn't pay attention to what you said, or it transcribes the text perfectly and then loses its mind, or or poor connectivity because I'm in the car, or I don't know. It's just so unreliable. It's I really hope this is fantastic, or even just okay would be actually great.
Just okay. So this is June 8th, 2026. Moving forward, we can, if we think to revisit this in 6 months or 4 months or something, and has our usage pattern changed? I'm going to be curious about that. With Siri. Yeah. We'll see. Time will tell.
Tell us about the new stoner mode you were talking about with Siri.
Wasn't that, because you can adjust the rate of speech of Siri. You could go way up, much faster speech, faster responses, or slower speech, bro. Yeah.
Does a slower speech automatically add like a accent or a
it should.
certain lingo or whatever? Okay.
I think given Craig Federighi's discussion of how they came up with the new macOS Golden Gate, that might fit at stoner mode, but I don't know that it'll go that slow, but I think it could be a cool mode.
All right. One thing they did put on there too, right when they were talking about Siri, they mentioned faster voice control responses. We talked in one of the prior episodes, I've been working on trying to make my apps work better with accessibility and really support it solidly. And one of the things I noticed just recently, even yesterday, again, I was noticing it seems like voice control responses are just a little bit slow. I want to do this, then I want to do this. I want to type this into this field, then I want to click that button, then I want to click this button. And you gotta wait, and it's not super long. But I went looking to see if there was like a faster mode setting somewhere, and I couldn't find one. So I think that'll be a welcome improvement for probably a lot of people who have to use it.
Yeah, a lot of quality of life improvements. I can appreciate that we're not going for anything real big. I would have liked to have seen bigger improvements with Siri and intelligence, but again, time will tell on what the actual day-to-day use case is of it, if it improves.
WatchOS got a new app grid.
Oh.
Yeah, that was it. That's all I've got to say about that. Safari, Safari had a couple interesting ones. There was an AI thing that would just reorganize your tabs by topic.
I like that.
That was kind of cool. And there was another thing where you could tell it to monitor a web page for changes and tell you about it later.
I like that too.
Then they also talked about a feature called Describe an Extension that would just make some extension for you based on what you said. I haven't tried it. And then there was automatically update passwords. Right now we get the warnings saying, oh, this password has been used in, 47 breaches, and you use it on 200 websites. You should probably change them. And we just say, okay, never mind. And but now it's apparently for quote eligible accounts. It's going to try to go and change those for you. So that could either be great or a terrible disaster.
Yeah, I wonder how many eligible accounts I would have. But
I'm
okay,
curious,
here's another question. Here's another question. Will you put macOS Golden Gate on your main computer today? I will not. Spoiler.
No, it's definitely not today. I will think about adding it to a computer at some point, but
okay. Yeah, in fact, I don't know that I don't think I use the macOS beta ever. I'm not developing a macOS app at this time, so that's part of it, but it's my only laptop, my only computer, and I
might run it in a VM and see how that goes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, cool.
I have not run anything in a VM on my Mac except for Parallels in the past, but I tried that Virtual Buddy written by that Guillermo Rambo. He's
yeah.
And his UI is beautiful, by the way. At the time I went to go do it, I didn't have enough free disk space on that computer, so that was where I ended. It looks like I needed a good 60 gig plus free, and I was too low. So, but that might be a solution. I might try to run it in a VM and see how well that goes, and then probably close it.
Yeah.
Wait a couple months.
Yeah. The Siri API is something that I made a note of that I do want to look into deeper, because my social network app, I think, would really benefit from that. And that ties in with app intents, or maybe they're two different things. Again, I've got to look into it. But that was something that if I could just say, check me in at this location, then it would just do it. That would be cool. That would be very cool. And that would really streamline and I think interact with my app a lot simpler. I think that'd be a welcome addition. So I made a note of that to definitely look into.
The Home app, they talked about something about video AI something and supporting 4K resolution. Shortcuts. I think they have a solution for shortcuts for both of us, which is they have a new plan called Describe a Shortcut, where you just say what you want and it tries to make it. So I would love to try that out. That sounds like a way I might use shortcuts.
Yeah, because I am not a user of shortcuts. I think I looked at it when it came out, but I just...
It's too complicated. I'm not a programmer here. I mean,
I totally am, and I totally should. But or you think I would, but it's just not a priority for me.
Yeah.
So I haven't used it. But with natural language, I think that would be more approachable. So that was kind of my takeaway from the keynote overall.
Let's see. I had two more things on the keynote. Okay. Image Playground can now do, it says, high quality images, any style, including photorealistic, which they did not allow before. And variable aspect, which I think you didn't get to choose an aspect ratio before. You just got what it gave you. And then Photos added that, to the Photos app, they've added a reframe feature where you can kind of move your camera a bit after the fact and maybe change the angle a little bit. And it'll just, hallucinate its way to add the missing spots in the picture. And we'll have to try that out and see how it goes.
That was cool. I forgot about that. That was a pretty cool demo. I've done that with a couple of pictures where I've, kind of touched them up, try to touch them up with the touch-up feature, which works pretty good, but there was a lot of improvements there.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And that was it for the keynote. And then we waited a couple hours and went to watch the Platform State of the Union.
my first note on Platform State of the Union was the new icon composer. I don't know.
Oh,
Do you use Icon Composer? Did you use it for any of your
I
current apps?
have. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's new about it?
Well, I was playing with it. I downloaded the beta, Icon
Already?
Composer
Oh my
2. I
gosh.
did. I was messing with it because I have my app for the midst. I created the app icon in Sketch, and I have to look. I think it's 6 different layers, and 2 different groups. So I was able to,
I think the old one they would only let you have 5 groups, right?
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay, doesn't matter.
That could be either way. There's only 2 groups, and I don't know if there's more than that now. But point being, like I did have layers, and so I was messing with the new icon composer. And granted, I haven't watched the videos on really how to use it. I was just reading the website about it just now, and my immediate takeaway is it makes it look a bit more vibrant, a bit more natural, like because you can switch back between iOS 26 and iOS 27 in the icon composer. And the iOS 26 icon, just basically without doing anything, some of my background layers look more bubbly. And then whereas I think in the iOS 27, everything looks more natural. It's got a glass look still, but I don't know, it's a cleaner look, and
I'll have
I
to try
do
that
like
out.
it. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised at with essentially doing nothing, that it looks nice, and they've got some notes about refraction and stuff like that. I haven't really I don't know enough about that, how to manipulate it to see, but I do like the new icon composer.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. We'll have to check that one out. Let's see. Apple Intelligence they talked about, obviously. Apple Foundation models are now using Google Gemini, at least to some extent, or they worked with Google Gemini, and now they have these new models for you. Things I wrote down that they've added is you can now work with images. I don't know if it generates images or it does. It takes input. You can input images anyway, though. So, which you couldn't do before. They also say you can use server models with the Foundation Models framework. So, like Apple's own models that run in the server, but it sounds like you can, from what I understood, just kind of following along, that they've got a protocol that you can conform to make it so you can access other models in the cloud. And I think that for most use cases, using the Foundation Models framework will be your best way to deal with like any kind of model, whether it's Apple's or somebody else's.
Okay, wait. So do you understand it as in you're using the Foundation Models framework, but through that you can access Gemini
I
or
think so. I
Claude?
think that's
Oh,
what they
okay.
were trying to say with that. Yeah, they had some extensible protocol to add support for others.
Okay.
And
Nice.
let's see, multimodal is text. They have text and images. You can run in private cloud compute. Something was getting open sourced. I didn't catch what that was. There were several times where they said things were getting open sourced. I went back to try to find, I guess, most of them, but I didn't find that one. So, but they also gave an example on a screen, like a little quick screen, couple screen views of these dynamic profiles where you would set up a profile for, which is kind of like a view builder syntax. You'd have like var, body, whatever. And it would give you back this profile that you can use with the Foundation Models framework. And the profile would set things like your system prompt or your system instruction.
Okay.
So you could have, they gave an example if you have an enum that returns different system prompts for the different situations. And they said that you can, kind of change the system prompts and the tools available with each turn in the LLM conversation and still have the whole history. So you can have better context and also just make it easier to be more flexible. And they give a pretty good example with their, what was the app they were doing?
Origami?
Origami,
Right?
yeah, some
Yeah,
origami
yeah.
thing.
A lot of reference on that.
Yeah, and they said there's also a new Foundation Models instrument in Xcode, or in Instruments probably, and a new FM terminal command for doing Foundation Models. They also said something about a RAG framework using Spotlight, which is RAG is just retrieval augmented generation. So it's you need to go look up some data in order to give a good response to the thing. So you could say maybe you'd look up information about your users' posts or their friends or whatever, and then give that to the model to give you an answer back to whatever. I haven't looked at any of that though, so I barely had enough time to write it down and just think about what it might mean. You have any thoughts on that? Any of this thing they said about foundation models?
I haven't used foundation models. There is one thing I want to do with it, with my app, is when I'm in a certain area of the world, and I'm checking in there that to use on-device intelligence to say, you're at a coffee shop here. There are other coffee shops around you. I've seen demos of this, and that's something that's kind of on my to-do list. So any improvements to foundation models that I can have flexible data inside my own app based on Apple Intelligence. That's very cool, because everything with my app is location based. So if there's something that it can say, you're here, here's other information about what's around you, and just live generated like that. I love that idea, but admittedly I haven't implemented it. But it is on my roadmap.
Very cool. Very cool.
The thing that go ahead. One of the things I took away, not from Apple Intelligence, but SwiftUI, there was a mention about how observable, state properties are now macros and not property
I heard
wrappers. Did you see that? Yeah, so I looked into it because I needed some clarification. Okay, what's the difference between a macro and a property wrapper? And I discovered a post by Donnie Walls, and we'll put this in the show notes. But he made a blog post about this very thing, and the property wrappers are executed at runtime, and so all of this, I gather, it's kind of more overhead for the system to run this logic. Every time your view updates, it's having to recompute that property wrapper, and now we're moving the state property wrapper is over to a macro if you're building it under iOS 27. So the macros are executed at compile time. And to quote Donnie Walls' post, he says, executed at compile time, and they allow us to augment our code by rewriting or expanding code. In other words, macros allow us to add, rewrite, and modify code at compile time. So whether that allows the app to be optimized and you're not getting as many refreshes.
And what were they saying they needed? Why did they do that? They mentioned, we changed this because...
The demo that they made was if you have an observable object, so if you have at observable some model, and then you're using it in your view and you're initializing that with a state property wrapper, well, that state property wrapper is now macro, so it's going to be smarter about refreshes. And I think this is about the app responsiveness, and it's
because they did say something about that they were now doing something smarter about layout, where they didn't end up having to request the sizes of some internal items when you have views inside of views. Right. And I didn't really catch the detail on that, just that they said they got rid of a lot of unnecessary layout work.
Yeah.
So and that's related.
That could be part of it, but I think it's little improvements, and I was happy to see that.
I heard two things that sounded good to me. They mentioned async image now caches. I don't know if you've used async image, but it loads every time. So it was just like, I can't use that in a real thing if I have more than a couple of them. And so that's great. And then there was, what else did they say? Gosh, I'm spacing on it now. There was something else related. They said that they're able to support much larger lists and things like containers of items. And I think that I know how many people have complained, trying to make their AI agents, and they have a conversation and they can't use it with SwiftUI. It just has too many rows of stuff. It just blows up and throws up. So I would love to see what they've done there too.
On the Swift language front, there was a segment with Holly Borla, and she mentioned about that annoying compiler, the error that you get. The
unable to type check this is expression in reasonable time, something like that.
Yeah, awful. What do I do with that? Okay, something is messed up and you've got to go hunting for it. And so I'd love to see that. And the demo that was given was just pointed right here is your problem. So
Yeah,
I
it's
fingers
great.
crossed that is great because that's a rough one. And when I get that error, I always feel like it's a bit my fault, like making my views too big or something.
Yeah, I mean, right. Maybe it is, but it's also partly how they designed the whole thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, I'm sure, very, very welcome. I think I heard, I don't know, somebody on another podcast talking about that, oh, this is coming in Swift 6.4. It's just
Mhm.
around the corner. It's going to be good. Because that goes on in the, what is it, Swift.org website where they talk about all the upcoming
Yeah. Yeah.
changes. Swift
I've got it.
Evolution. That's what it is.
Right. On the blog.
And one of the things they said too is they talked a lot about Swift and using it in, for other platforms, using it in the web, using it in the server side, which you've been you're quite familiar with. And then they also mentioned that in SwiftUI, that they now have unified implementations for controls across SwiftUI, AppKit, and UIKit. So there's like a unified implementation underneath all that now.
Oh yeah, I saw
that is then exposed in the different APIs that we're used to, the AppKit and the UIKit or the SwiftUI.
So what's your takeaway on that? Because I said, oh, this is optimized. Everything's kind of built under the same brain.
Well,
like how do you?
I mean, okay, so they're making, because they had, let's say, a SwiftUI button, and then they had a UIKit button, and then a Mac they had an AppKit button, and
right,
3 things to maintain. Well, they still have all those APIs, right? You could do the SwiftUI one or the AppKit or the UIKit, but it sounds like now they're all just calling into a common button implementation.
Okay.
Some would probably say that's a way they can move towards getting rid of the old ones.
Sure.
Certainly probably brings less maintenance for them going forward, which is probably good. Probably break some things, I'm guessing. So we'll learn about those in the next, coming weeks and months.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, overall, I think it's probably good. Just moving forward.
Yeah, that's cool. I anything unifying and simplifying, hopefully it means more optimal performance, which is good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see. What else?
I assume you downloaded the new Xcode 27?
I did. It's sitting there waiting to install. I have not hit the...
okay. So I downloaded it, I launched it.
You're so ahead of me, Dan. It's killing me.
Well, I've had this idea for a watchOS app, a very simple, just a watchOS only app, which, probably we'll see if it becomes an iOS app. Of course, they tend to. But so I thought, well, that'd be a great project to run on the new Xcode 27. So I downloaded it. And as I mentioned in the keynote or the State of the Union, when you open Xcode 27 and I go new project, it just opens, right? You don't go through the setup of naming the project or declaring the platform, which I found a little strange because it took me a moment to actually select watchOS only. Actually, I had to add a target. And then I deleted the old target, which I don't know if that's correct, but it seemed a little...
Might be. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I get it that's kind of an edge case where somebody's going to make a watchOS only app, but that was the process. It gave me what looked like a Mac app, and I created a watchOS target and then deleted the Mac app, and which was kind of strange. But that's going to be my playground, if you will, to work on this watchOS app.
Oh, very cool.
In Xcode 27, just because. I'm not quite ready to start working on my main app for that just yet, but that'll probably come in a couple of iterations of Xcode. I don't jump right on the first betas, I'm just anticipating plenty of bugs. But
oh yeah, I'm sure. One of the things they mentioned was the app intents framework, and they talked about. And I'm still a little new on those, honestly. They talked about, let's say, 2 kinds of schemas, though. They talked about entity schemas and intent schemas. And they said entity schemas they define like content or data that your app works with. Presumably that means that data you can expose or read in or transform in some way. But they said you use that to contribute your content to Spotlight Search and the personal context understanding. Like,
Hmm.
so if you want like their AI things to be able to do stuff with the content in your app, that you're supposed to somehow use these entity schemas to define sort of what these things are and how they can be manipulated, I guess. I don't know that much about them, but that sounded interesting. And then they said intent schemas are basically defining actions your app can perform. So you have, those two sets of things.
So that would be in the case of my app, like check in at a place. Check me
Right.
in at this
That might
coffee
be it. Yeah, that would be like an intent schema to check in at a place. But maybe you have an entity schema that's to say that's maybe like a definition of a place you have checked in. Just like a like a data object essentially. They also talked about, they said it really quickly, something about you could annotate something as you could annotate your view with something to declare your view as being something that I think you could define something that the system can present, like, hey, I've defined this view that you can present to display or interact with this type of data from my app. So like you might have a special view that displays, one check-in message or a unit or whatever.
Okay.
And I think you can expose that view and that data type to the system. And then if it needs to, and then if you have all your check-ins, for example, donated to the system through Spotlight, so Spotlight can index them, then you should be able to talk to Siri or whatever, or some other agent and say, find me all the check-ins I've done in this area before. And it should be able to use your view to show them, or for example, or I think it's that kind of thing if I'm following it. But
would that be like show me all the conversations I've had with Luke or whatever? Like I think they made some
probably
demos
that
about
kind of thing too, I would guess.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, I took a couple of screenshots on that one to look at, but I haven't spent 1 second looking into them. So I've got a lot to look at. Good Lord.
Every year. But it's good. I really enjoyed the platform State of the Union. There's a lot there, a lot of subtle improvements, and I look forward to digging into mostly right now. I guess those. Now I forgot the app intent. I think the app intent framework and finally getting Siri integration actionable into my app.
Yeah, a couple other things I wrote down just quick. I know we're kind of running out of time here, but let's see. We don't care about that. Platform improvements. I don't know. The things I put down about that is the big ones are iOS apps. When you run them on the iPad and on your Mac, they are going to be fully resizable in any way the user wants to resize them. So that's an aspect ratio and layout challenge, I'm sure.
Yeah, that sounds challenging.
So that's a big one, I think. Whether, when they added this thing with iPad apps last year where you could run them in Windows and resize them and things.
Right.
So that was sort of like your sneak preview.
Well, the new Device Hub app replaces the simulator, as I'm understanding.
Yeah.
Now we have Device Hub, and that had a lot of features associated with like just little toggles to test your accessibility.
Right. A lot of things that were in the simulator before, but you had to go to like menus and find them, and but now they've got them all kind of right in the sidebar there. I thought that looked great. They also said you could use that Device Hub app to interact with your actual live connected devices the same way you interact with simulators. And
very cool.
And one of the things they said when they were talking about Xcode specifically is it seems like they have exposed, everything to be able to be interacted with and seen by AI agents, so you could have them, it can interact with your simulators and they can interact with your devices and they can understand your project and they could go through your things in your organizer to check out your crash reports, and they can, I don't know. They had a long list of things. I did not write most of them down because there was a very long list of things that they've put in there. Xcode can be more personalized. That's great. Did you see the, I have to play with a couple of those. Those look fun.
Yeah.
They also said you could do a different style per project if you want.
Also love that.
So
That
this is my purple project, you know.
yeah, that might be a bit of context switching, but that might be helpful actually.
Yeah, it might
especially if
be.
you're with AI agents and people switch back and forth between projects. You might be switching more, and
Well, and you know, we've talked about AI and things in the past a little bit, and I'm a little more AI heavy than I think you are at this point. But I find when I'm working with the AI agents on coding, there's a lot of time where you're mostly waiting for the thing.
Oh.
And so compulsively, I have to have a second thing open to work on because this one could code doing something, and then this one over here needs to then be doing something. So then I don't just sit there staring at it.
Sure. And is that two different projects or two different parts of the same project?
Usually I try to do two different projects.
Okay.
Sometimes it's the same project if I could try to work in like an unrelated area. Hopefully, like let's say I'm working on onboarding here and I'm working on, you know, I don't know, analytics over here, you know, kind of mostly not overlapping. That tends to work best. You know, I've got my Xcode MCP server, not the one that comes with Xcode, but my own MCP server that I connect to Claude Code that does things like build the project and get back the errors and the warnings and things. And everything goes great until it tries to do the same project multiple times. Because, you know, you get the pop-up in Xcode saying, oh, a build is already running. Do you want to replace it? And if it then sends another request to do a build while that thing is on the screen, it'll stay on the screen forever until you kill Xcode.
Oh, interesting.
And it's very annoying. So, so that's the main reason I try to go to different projects though, honestly, because that's annoying. But yeah, so, you know, multiple projects, that sounds great. They said Xcode is going to cloud sync all your settings now.
Love that too.
That sounds fantastic. They're still pushing their Xcode cloud.
Don't use it.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Xcode. Okay, that's pretty much everything I've got on there. Oh, I'm sorry. Leaving behind two things. We are leaving behind Intel.
Yep.
Intel Macs are done. They're no longer supported in, what's this called? macOS 27? macOS, what's the name?
27? Golden Gate. macOS
Golden Gate. Thank you. macOS Golden Gate, right. Yeah, not supported, so I think that's great news. That means a lot of binaries will get smaller because you don't have to have that extra Intel piece in there.
Right.
And then the other thing they're getting rid of is this flag, UI design requires compatibility. We use this, I use this with some of my apps and some of my client apps last year when they introduced liquid glass. You know, besides the liquidiness of things, you know, their tab bars were different and the some of the navigation stuff was different. And of course, the little stoplight thing on your, with your, not on the Mac, but on the iPad, because I've been working on quite a few iPad apps. There was this compatibility flag. They said, hey, you could use it for 1 year. And so it's going away. And I was talking to another friend of mine just before the WWDC thing today. And he was saying, like, well, what have you been working on? Oh, I've been working on doing this liquid glass stuff that we should have done a year ago, but we've been in the compatibility. And that's exactly the same thing he is working on for his company, is just working on that same, getting ready to have that flag go away. And, you know, because you're going to be opted in now regardless. So
this means if you, because I haven't worked with this. So if you have this flag in there, depending on the device, if it can handle liquid glass, it will do it. If not, it will not do it.
Yeah, because what it was, you know, design requires compatibility. So you would set it to yes or true. And then you would basically get iOS 18 behavior on a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
You know, one of them, for example, was that little 3-button stoplight thing. What do you call that? It's got the red X and the minus sign.
Yeah.
Small.
Oh, I think is it called the stoplight?
It's got some other name, but that would go, if you had that turned on, it would appear in above all the rest of your content. It would basically make your safe area taller, and it would be right at the top. Okay. But when you have it turned off, it was like, no, it needs to be unified in that top bar, and your content might need to slide over to the right, or it might need to move down depending on where you have it. So that was one of the things you had to adapt to. And
so are you designing two different UIs based on this flag?
No, we were just turning on the flag and ignoring most of the problems and dealing with the other ones that we had, which were all related to resizing. Because because, like I said, last year, iPad OS got the ability to shape your windows any size you want.
Right.
And
Okay.
so,
Wow.
so that flag going away means people have work to do, but that's okay. Not you, I
Get with the
guess.
time. No, because, well, I'm spoiled because I pretty everything, yeah, all of my apps are just iOS 26. So, and that's just the benefit
That's
of
cool.
being the fact is it's just me. I have very few users, which is not a benefit, but I just everything's cranked up to
Uh,
iOS 26's minimum deployment target.
you said in our last podcast, you made a statement kind of like, oh, well, I kind of feel like I lean on the fact that I'm using like the system defaults for a bunch of things
Yeah.
that I don't have to worry so much about, like these layout things and the weird um, sort of accessibility things when we're talking about those. And I'm just going to say, I think you do. You definitely do, because even using the system things, there's a bunch of things that aren't going to work right
Okay.
in terms of sometimes it's like, like dynamic type gets really big. And now, oh, you have this area that scrolls and this area that doesn't. And this area just got big enough to take up the whole screen. And now it's fixed and you have no room to scroll, or, something doesn't wrap, but instead truncates,
Yep.
or those kind of things. I'm trying to think. There's something else I was going to mention.
These are
Oh,
things
yeah.
you
Yeah,
were
those are
discovering
things
this as you work through
as I've been working on
accessibility.
my apps. And yeah, I was just thinking about you the other day when I was yesterday, the day before, when I was working on one of them that, oh boy, I got to tell Dan about this because, and the same thing with the voiceover. Oh, voice control. Good Lord. I've got this mortgage calculator app where you have buttons on the screen. You can type in, your number, and then you hit a button, and it acts kind of like a physical calculator. And one of the things I noticed is that when you do voice control, I can't say 250,000
Oh.
and then put in and tap the, let's say, loan amount, which is, I have a button called loan amount. Instead, I have to say 2, 5, 0, and it taps the 2 button, taps the 5, taps the 0. Super tedious.
Wow. Okay.
Because I don't have a text edit field. So now I do have a text edit field that overlays the display area, and that if you tap on it, it lets you type like you normally would a number, and it treats it as input the other way. But then once you enter the number, then it's basically hidden again, but it looks the same. It gets formatted, but it looks much better. And I'm like, well, what does Apple do in their calculator app? Because they've got I'm like, you know what they do? Nothing. It doesn't work. If you try to type in a number, you want to say 200,000 plus 500, you're going to say 2, 0, 0 very slowly, because you have to wait for it. But where their number gets displayed, there's a word that says edit. Like, you should be able to say edit or tap edit, and it should be editable, but it doesn't work. So they've got a bug.
Wow.
But that was
Wow.
one I had never thought of, because it looked like I thought I was sort of done. And then, like, oh gosh, what do I do about that?
Oh. It'd be interesting to look and see if in iOS 27 beta, if they've fixed that.
Yes, it will
Right?
be. It
Right?
will be, especially if they've been refocusing on all these things a lot. That
Yeah.
might be interesting to see.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, we are out of time,
You sure are.
Drew, but very cool. It's exciting to see what's ahead. I know that looking into September, when we anticipate whatever the release date is going to be, every year, it's, if you want to get featured, if you want to have a chance of getting featured on the App Store, you've got to show some sort of adaptation of these new APIs.
I think
it seems
so.
like.
Yeah.
And every year I don't get featured. So
Well, this might be your year. This might be your year to focus. Pick one of your apps,
Maybe.
focus on it,
Yeah,
make it
yeah.
awesome for that stuff. Yeah. So, do you
Right.
have a next up? What you plan to look at with any of this stuff?
Well, in addition to playing with Xcode 27 and the new watchOS app, I think the biggest thing is incorporating the Siri API into the Midst app and getting it to being capable of checking me in at a location with natural language. Just say,
very
Siri,
cool.
check me in at Basecamp Coffee. And if I can do that, honestly, in addition to all my other work, just trying to, I'm building another app. I've got too many things I'm juggling, I think. But
Yeah, I'll bet.
that's my primary focus. How about you?
Yeah, there's a lot there. I think I'm probably going to go looking at the app intents and those intent schemas and entity schemas and figure out how that relates to anything I've been touching. So there's a lot of things I want to look into here. Anyway, yeah, we'll have to talk about it in a future episode because we are way out of time.
That's right. All right. Well, very good.
All right.
Thanks, Drew. Good talking with you.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you. Anybody who's listening, we appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and obey.
We'll see you next time.
All right. See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.